Welcome to Energy Stew. This is Peter Roth, your host. And I'd like to ask you, how well are you choosing lately? How much choice is there? How do we get into all of this lately? Through our choices? And can we choose new ones? So we're going to find out what's really going on with a guest who I love to talk with because he has great insight on so many different things. And so I've asked him to be back on Energy Stew to really enjoy his insights and understandings of life and reality. And so Jacob Liberman, welcome back to Energy Stew.
Thank you so much. It's so sweet to see you again in the midst of all of the things that have been going on in the world. It's nice to see each other smiling.
Well, that's true. I don't know what ironic smiles, maybe.
Yeah.
So um, we had been talking before we started recording the show that about why we got here, how we chose, or how we're choosing every day. What are our choices? And so let's look at that. What are our real choices in life?
You know, when you ask that question, I'm immediately reminded it was 2018. I was in Prague in the Czech Republic. I was in the midst of my book tour, and I was asked to do an address at the University of Economics. Now, of course, the first thing you have to question yourself is, what am I going to be speaking about at the University of Economics? I don't know anything about economics. And what is this related to in terms of my book, Luminous Life? And so, because I do not plan any of my presentations, I don't plan them at all. They're totally live. I'm introduced and I sit down in a room with probably 300 to 400 people in an amphitheater. And I pose the question to them that I just posed here. What am I doing here? Economics is not my thing. And then all of a sudden, what comes to me is what economy means. And what I realize, what comes out of me in that moment is that the universe defines economy because the universe functions effortlessly. Nobody knows, nobody is in the sky moving the earth on its axis. Nobody is rotating the planets orbiting around the solar system. Uh, it's all happening. It's sort of self-activating, self-regulating, but there's no work involved. There's nobody's doing anything, and it's all happening by itself.
Well, maybe that's also about life.
Well, that's where we're going to go now. So you look out at Mother Nature and you realize the trees grow by themselves. None of them are staying in shape by exercising. Animals are not taking aerobic classes or yoga classes, even though they stretch and so on. Animals don't run for the sake of running. They only run when something is chasing them or when they're chasing something because they fear for their life or they're hungry. But other than that, they just walk or they swim or they fly slowly without much effort at all. It's just occurring on its own. So we look out at Mother Nature and we think we're in control of everything. But in reality, we don't control shit. None of us are controlling the weather. None of us are controlling anything out there that we're observing. Oh, so let's come in closer now. So now we start looking inside of our own body, and we see that there is not a single physiological function designed to initiate action. Everything in the body is designed to respond to something. What is it responding to? An animating force, let's call it. What is an animating force? Something that's moving things, except in this case, it moves them without any movement. It moves it without doing anything, at least anything that is obvious to anyone that's ever looked. So we look at the workings of the body, we look at the workings of nature, we go really macrocosmically into the universe. It's all happening on its own. We look into the quantum realm and we see we can't understand any of it because none of it is logical. Everything is occurring everywhere at the same time. Everything is inseparably connected or entangled. There's no such thing as different things, which means there's no need for choice because everything is one thing. There isn't something else that you have to choose between. So wherever we look, choice does not exist. It's just something that is occurring. And so when we ask the question about choice, the first thing we notice or we think is choice requires thought. Well, the reason we feel the need to choose is because we want to have the comfortable answer. We want the one that's going to be easy or that's going to work out our way, right, or whatever.
The happy choice.
A happy choice because we're concerned. The reason we're concerned is because the fact that the universe functions and defines economy, which means the least amount of anything to get the most benefit. It's like putting in nothing and getting 100% return on your money. So what I've come to see is that what we call choice or free will, based on my life's experience and direct experience, it's an illusion. As an example, I was speaking to a family member 2 days ago who had undergone a stressful situation. And like all of us, when we're, experiencing something new that we've never experienced before, the mind does what we call the worst case scenario. Oh my God, it's got to be cancer. It's got to be this. It's got to be that. Well, it turned out that it was none of those things. And what came to me as I was speaking to this family member is, wow, your experience has reminded me that what we call the mind is a very, very poor and inaccurate predictor of anything. It doesn't actually give us the right answer, hardly ever. What we come up with the mind and what actually occurs, usually the mind thinks the worst, and rarely do we ever experience any of that. So the point I'm making is we are relying on a chooser whose choice is rarely accurate. And if you look at neurophysiology, you'll see that not only is the choice inaccurate, it actually doesn't impact much of anything other than maybe it creates stress because of the work involved in what we call choosing.
But we believe we're choosing almost every minute.
Yeah, but you see, there's no truth in that. If you look at if you take the most advanced MRIs in the world and you put someone in a device that's looking at these very subtle movements in the brain, and then you set up the experiment so that the person is given a choice of a series of things, maybe chocolate or vanilla, black or whatever it is. It could be from the simplest choices of a flavor to complex choices having to do with mathematics. And what you routinely find when it comes to simple choices, that up to, and this is only because our technology cannot measure more than this, but so far up to 11 seconds before you think you've used your quote free will to choose, up to 11 seconds before that, your system already knows exactly where you're going and is moving in that direction. And that's for very simple choices. But even if you take more complex choices like mathematical things, 4 to 7 seconds before that, it's also occurring. The point I'm attempting to make, and this is coming not only from current science, but from a lot of direct experience that I've had. And direct experience is not like a life experience, it's like an epiphany. Something happens, maybe in the middle of the night. You see something, you tell somebody about it, and a year later, it is exactly what you said to them the year before. The point I'm making is choice is an interesting idea, but if you look at it really carefully, you will see that it can't be. It just can't be what's happening in our lives. You know, you and I are the current day uh, um, state of evolution of a lineage that's been going on for millions of years and keeps spreading. And so I I remember the other day I got some sort of a thing from 23andMe, and it said that this guy that was in my men's group for 18 years is a cousin of mine. And it was like, oh my God. So the point I'm making is our genetics are probably at a very primal level shared with maybe everyone that's ever lived. So where does our nature originate from? All the actions that occur in our life, where exactly do they originate? They've been going on for millions of years. I get up from the couch sometimes at night and I notice my body makes a sound. And each time I hear that sound, I giggle because I remember my father's body used to make the same sound. So where does it originate from?
Well,
And
even the thinking that if our mind already, 7 to 11 seconds ahead of time already knows the thoughts that we're going to consciously experience, where does that come from?
First of all, when you say we consciously experience them, that's a really, really important point. And the reason that that's an important point is that most everybody is sure that they're making conscious choices. Yeah?
Yeah.
But there is something within all human beings that human beings are aware of, which is human beings know when the mind is in that process. They know that. You just said it. You're aware of the conscious choices. Yes?
Well, I'm aware of once they come to my conscious mind.
Right.
But
Who's
I'm not,
aware of them?
well,
Who's aware of them?
just my consciousness.
Ah, are you sure it's yours?
Well, we don't know where where our thinking is from.
Wait, no, let's
We don't
separate those
plan
two.
thoughts, we just have them.
Hold on a second. Let's separate those two. You've made a series of statements, and I think it's important to really look at them.
Good.
My thoughts, are they mine? Number one. My consciousness. What do you mean, my consciousness? Is consciousness an individual thing? These are really important questions, Peter, and I'll share with you why. Everyone mixes up the mind with consciousness. It's all one thing, mind and consciousness. I don't actually find that that's the case from all of my living for almost 73 years. There is something within our humanity that makes no choices whatsoever, that has no point of view, that merely notices all that is. And part of all that is that there is this conversation that frequently occurs. My sense is the conversation, we call it thinking, which I call it worrying, is essentially an internal dialogue that is the result of all the conditioning that's occurred in our lineage for all of time. And so something within all humans, and it's not even within, but something related to all humans, is noticing this conversation. And my sense is that the noticer is not you, it's not me, it's not your wife or my wife or anyone I know. It's a field of noticing that is common to all. So consciousness for me, or pure awareness, is not a personal thing. It's a field of awareness common to all that notices things. And the reason I say it's common to all is that consciousness, it is not dual. It doesn't deal in duality. It is non-dual pure awareness. And non-duality is something that's common to all, to everything. So the point I'm making is, we know that much of the time, something that we're in touch with is aware of the mind going through all of its things that it goes
So
through.
we're the witness more than anything else. We're
Let's
awake and witnessing.
and let's just say that we is a capital W, a capital E in bold, and that we is not a human being. Let's call that we the eyes of God.
Yeah, that's what I was just going to say.
Let's call that we
that the all-knowing is in everyone.
Yeah, and it's interesting when you look at the beginning of the Bible and it talks about Adam, and it said something about if you eat that fruit, the fruit of good or evil, then you live as a mortal in terms of choice, good, evil, bad. But if you don't eat the fruit, but merely notice the fruit, you remain in the field of godliness, of divinity. Your question is really magnificent because this is the key to our freedom as human beings, is noticing that our essence is witnessing, noticing, and that it notices without a voice. If it has a voice, it is not the noticer.
So we can watch the eye of God operating within us.
No, it's not that we can watch the eye of God. It is that the essence of all that is the eye of God.
Okay, so we are part of the essence of all that is, but it's operating within my skin and bones and all my systems. And
we don't know where it's operating.
No, but I'm experiencing as a human being, um, as a unique human being, I'm experiencing that spark of God being part of God.
Okay, let's go with that a little more. When we're looking from the perspective of the mind and talking about this as a hypothetical, theoretical construct, we think we are aware of that. But actually, that isn't it. When we are in that field of awareness, when the identity is as the witness, we disappear. There isn't a part of us that's now aware of godliness. The drop called a human being falls into the ocean, call it consciousness, divinity, falls into the ocean, disappears as the drop, and all there is a field of awareness.
And that's the ultimate freedom.
Right. So when we speak about meditation, people think, oh, meditation is to quiet the mind and all that. The primary function of meditation is to discover that our essence is the noticer of the physical sensations, the noticer of what's happening in the mind. And as we identify more and more as the noticer, we as an individual disappear, and all that exists is a field of noticing. There's noticing, but there's no noticer.
So the idea is to get out of the way and let the universe operate through us in whatever way it needs to.
It's doing that anyway, no matter what the hell we
Right,
do.
but as the witness, we're watching it happen, and to appreciate the experience of the surrender to that.
So,
And
this is
we only have a few minutes left.
It's okay. We'll round it up. You see, we wanted to talk about how this is related to what's going on in the world right now.
Yes.
What's happening right now is we are witnessing a magnification beyond anything we've ever seen before of the illusion that we're the choice makers.
And we're finding out that as choice makers, we haven't done a very good job.
Well, you realize
at least that we're judging it as not a very good job because it's such a mess right now.
When everything is flowing, there's no side effects. But whenever you try to make things go your way, you create a side effect. And so when we look at the heads of states that are trying to control what's going on because it's what I want, regardless of what's good for everyone, you're now seeing in front of your eyes the impact of that illusion. When we attempt to do the same thing with the environment, we want it our way, regardless of what Mother Nature is. You see the impact and side effects of that as global warming, climate change, and so on. When that same choice says, oh, I'm better than you because of my religion or my skin coloration or where I was born or whatever it is, you see the side effects of that in the racial inequality that's been going on forever. So whether you're looking at what's going on with the government right now, not only here, but in many places, the epidemic, oh, that shows us how much we're in control, doesn't it? And then climate change and the racial thing, all of it right now has never been so magnified. Why? Because the shit has to hit the fan before a paradigm shift is catalyzed. Always before the scales tip in a different direction, there is tremendous amount of fear and unrest because everybody knows something is about to shift, but no one has any idea how or why or whatever it is. And so we're seeing this on perhaps the most important aspects of life right now. And it's so interesting. Neither one of us thought we were going to end up at this place when we began this conversation today, talking about choice on some level. But look at the mess our choices have gotten us into on all these levels we just discussed. And then you begin to see, you can look at it in a superficial sense and say, oh, we've made the wrong choice. Or you can say, maybe all this is happening because of what we choose is limited, because before the choices were made, Mother Nature regulates itself beautifully all on its own.
But maybe it's all perfect the way it is and has to be in order for evolution to take place.
Absolutely.
So we're arguing about the choices, but maybe they have been correct all along, and the universe will carry on the way it needs to.
You're absolutely correct. All of this is occurring as the curriculum involved in catalyzing evolution, continual expansion, and so on. I think it is important to also recognize that stress, what we call stress, which is the cause of probably every problem we have on the planet, from our health downward, is essentially what occurs when we have an allergic reaction to some aspect of life.
Well, right now we're feeling that. But we're really out of time now, Jacob.
Well, thank God we've made good use of time.
Everything is perfect.
Yeah.
And we will carry on. I'm sure this is a discussion that has more legs to it, because we're in the middle of change, and it's all part of greater patterns that we're not in control of, but we would like to be.
You know, Peter, I just want to mention one very, very quick thing. There was a guy in the 1700s, I think he was a philosopher or a mathematician, I don't remember, and he discovered something very interesting. When light is moving from one place to the next, it always gets there in the fastest possible way. Essentially, the shortest distance between 2 points is a straight line, if you will. And what he noticed is that animals in the wild naturally do that. When they have to get somewhere, their bodies automatically go the fastest possible route to get there. In other words, it's built into our humanity. This efficiency, this economy is built into our humanity. And when we uncover the miraculousness of that, we'll have a little bit less stress.
All right. So on those words, Jacob Liberman, thank you for being a guest on Energy Stew. Where's a contact for you, or what?
People can visit the website jacobliberman.org, O-R-G, and that's Liberman. And they can follow me on Facebook and so on. And if they wish to contact, they can email info@jacobliberman.org.
Jacob, thanks so much for being a guest on Energy Stew.
My pleasure. I love talking to you.
And thank you. And this is Peter Roth, your host of Energy Stew at PRN.FM. I can be reached at peter@heartriver, HEART river.org. I'd love to hear from you, and thanks so much for listening.